Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone.
Life often asks us to let go, not because we don't care, but because our hearts, minds, and souls deserve peace. Emotional detachment isn't about shutting down. It's about creating healthy boundaries, reclaiming your energy, and protecting your well-being. Today, I want to share 5 rules that guide you in the delicate art of emotionally detaching from someone so you can regain control of your life without guilt or shame. The very first step in emotionally detaching from someone is to truly acknowledge what you are feeling without trying to fix it, suppress it, or explain it away. So often we are taught that certain emotions are bad or unacceptable. We feel ashamed for being angry, embarrassed for feeling hurt, or guilty for wanting space. But here's the truth. Every emotion you experience is a signal, a message from your inner self that something matters deeply to you. To acknowledge your feelings means to pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling this way? Don't rush through this process. Sit with your emotions as you would sit with a friend in pain, without judgment, without trying to change them. Naming your feelings is powerful. Say to yourself, I am hurt. I am angry. I feel disappointed. When you can articulate what you feel, you begin to separate your identity from your emotional experiences. You recognize that feeling does not make you weak. It makes you human. Acknowledging your feelings also requires radical honesty with yourself. Stop pretending everything is fine or blaming the other person for how you feel. Emotional detachment is not about shutting down. It's about seeing your own experience clearly. Allow yourself to cry if you need to journal your thoughts, or simply to sit in quiet reflection. The more you honor your emotions, the less they control you. Remember, feelings are not permanent. They are lash-like waves in the ocean. You don't have to act on every wave, and you certainly don't have to let them drown you. By acknowledging your feelings without judgment, you create the space to observe them, learn from them, and ultimately let them guide you toward clarity and freedom. This is the cornerstone of emotional detachment. Knowing yourself deeply enough to recognize your emotions, honor them, and then decide consciously how to move forward. Once you've acknowledged your feelings, the next crucial step in emotional detachment is learning to accept what you cannot control. So often we exhaust ourselves trying to change people, situations, or outcomes that are simply beyond our influence. We replay conversations, imagine different scenarios, and carry the weight of what-ifs on our shoulders. This struggle is exhausting because it asks you to fight against reality itself. Acceptance does not mean approval, and it certainly doesn't mean giving up. It means recognizing the limits of your influence. You cannot control someone else's emotions, their decisions, or their reactions, but you can control your own. Accepting what you cannot control is about turning inward rather than outward for your sense of peace. It's about saying, I cannot change them. I cannot rewrite the past. I cannot make someone love, respect, or understand me. But I can choose how I respond, and I can protect my heart. This rule requires humility and courage. It requires you to let go of the illusion that your emotional energy can fix or save others. You must release the belief that their choices are a reflection of your worth, or that you are responsible for their happiness. The moment you stop trying to control what is uncontrollable, you reclaim your power. Your energy is no longer drained by endless worry or futile attempts to manage someone else's behavior. It becomes available for your own growth, healing, and self-discovery. Acceptance is also an ongoing practice. It will not come in a single moment. It requires daily reminders. When the urge to intervene arises, pause, breathe, reflect. Is this something I can influence? Or am I trying to carry a weight that isn't mine to carry? The more you practice acceptance, the more emotionally resilient you become. You begin to understand that detachment is not about indifference. It is about clarity. You care enough about yourself to step back from the chaos, to honor your boundaries, and to invest your energy where it truly matters. Remember, acceptance frees you. It releases you from the invisible chains of expectation and disappointment. It allows you to see life as it is rather than as you wish it could be. By accepting what you cannot control, you create space for peace, self-respect, and emotional freedom. Because true detachment begins not by controlling others, but by mastering yourself. Emotional detachment is impossible without boundaries. Boundaries are not walls built to isolate you from the world. They are guardrails that keep your heart safe while still allowing you to engage fully with life. They are a declaration that your well-being matters, that your feelings are valid, and that your energy is precious. When you set boundaries, you are telling yourself and the world that your peace is non-negotiable. Setting boundaries begins with clarity. You must first identify what behaviors, words, or situations are harmful to your emotional health. Perhaps it's constant criticism, manipulation, or the expectation that you always accommodate others at your own expense. Perhaps it's someone who dismisses your feelings or undermines your worth. Whatever it is, name it clearly. Boundaries cannot exist without understanding what threatens your inner peace. Once you know what you need to protect, boundaries must be communicated both to yourself and others. This can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you've spent years prioritizing other people's needs over your own. Saying no or expressing limits is not selfish. It is an act of courage and self-respect. You might feel fear, guilt, or even shame. But these feelings are signals that you are moving in the right direction. Every time you enforce a boundary, you reinforce the message that your heart deserves care and protection. Boundaries are also about consistency. It's not enough to set them once. They must be maintained. Emotional detachment requires that you honor these boundaries, even when it's inconvenient, even when others push back, and even when your own old habits of people-pleasing resurface. Consistency sends a clear message to your mind, body, and spirit. I am in control of my own emotional space. Lastly, remember that boundaries are not punitive. They are protective. They do not exist to punish the other person or to create resentment. They exist to preserve your integrity and your capacity to love without losing yourself. By protecting your heart, you create space for authentic connections that uplift and nurture you. And you gradually release those relationships that drain, deplete, or diminish your spirit. When you set boundaries, you are not closing your heart. You are honoring it. You are learning that detachment is an act of love, not avoidance. It is a commitment to yourself that your emotional well-being matters, that you deserve respect, and that your heart is sacred. Boundaries are the framework of freedom. They allow you to engage fully with life without losing yourself in the process. Detaching emotionally from someone is not about abruptly severing ties or creating dramatic distance. It is about taking intentional steps to protect your emotional well-being. Limiting your exposure gradually allows your heart and mind to adjust to reclaim balance and to regain clarity. This process is a form of self-compassion. It honors your emotions while giving you space to heal and regain control. The first step in limiting exposure is awareness. Pay attention to the interactions that leave you feeling drained, anxious, or triggered. Notice the patterns, the conversations, the behaviors, or even the timing of contact that consistently destabilize you. Awareness is essential because it gives you the information you need to make conscious choices about who and what occupies your emotional space. Once you understand your triggers, begin to create gentle distance. This can take many forms: reducing the frequency of communication, stepping back from in-person interactions, or even unfollowing or muting someone on social media. These actions are not acts of rejection. They are acts of preservation. They send a powerful message to yourself. My energy is valuable and I choose how and where to invest it. Gradually limiting exposure also allows you to process your emotions without feeling overwhelmed. When you immediately cut someone out of your life completely, you may experience a whirlwind of guilt, fear, or doubt. Gradual detachment, however, gives your heart time to recalibrate. You learn to set boundaries, protect your space, and observe how your emotional responses shift as distance increases. It is equally important to pair limited exposure with self-reflection. Ask yourself, how do I feel after this interaction? How do I feel when I take a step back? Am I gaining clarity, peace, or emotional freedom? Journaling, meditating, or simply observing your emotional state can strengthen your awareness and reinforce the benefits of detachment. Finally, understand that limiting exposure is a practice, not a punishment. It is not about hiding, avoiding, or abandoning. It is about creating a safe, nurturing environment for yourself. Every small adjustment, every intentional step back is a move toward reclaiming your emotional autonomy. By gradually limiting exposure, you give yourself the gift of peace, the power of choice, and the courage to detach while still honoring your own humanity. The final step in emotionally detaching from someone is to turn your attention inward toward your own growth and healing. Too often we expend energy trying to fix others, change circumstances, or hold on to what cannot be held. But true emotional freedom comes when we redirect that energy toward ourselves, toward becoming stronger, wiser, and more whole. Focusing on your own growth is not selfish. It is an act of courage, self-respect, and radical self-love. Start by acknowledging that you are a work in progress. Growth doesn't happen overnight. It is a daily practice of reflection, learning, and self-compassion. Take time to explore who you are apart from this person. What are your values, passions, and dreams? What activities, relationships, and practices nourish your soul? By reconnecting with yourself, you begin to rediscover your identity independent of the emotional entanglement that once consumed you. Healing also requires gentleness. You may find yourself revisiting old wounds, feeling hurt, or even questioning your worth. These moments are not setbacks. They are opportunities to understand yourself more deeply. Journaling, meditation, therapy, or creative expression can be powerful tools to process emotions, gain clarity, and nurture resilience. The more you invest in your healing, the less dependent you become on external validation or approval. Growth involves creating a vision for the person you want to become. What habits, mindsets, and relationships will support your emotional freedom? What boundaries will you maintain to ensure that your heart is protected in the future? By focusing on personal development, you shift your energy from frustration and loss to empowerment and possibility. You begin to see that your life is not defined by one person's actions or presence, but by the courage, love, and strength you cultivate within yourself. Finally, understand that this journey is ongoing. Emotional detachment is not a single act. It is a lifelong practice of self-awareness, self-care, and self-respect. Every step you take toward growth and healing is a step away from emotional dependency and a step toward freedom. By investing in yourself, you not only detach with grace and integrity, but also create a life filled with purpose, resilience, and joy. Your energy becomes your own, and your heart becomes your sanctuary, a place where you are whole, valued, and truly free. Emotional detachment is not about shutting off your heart or becoming cold. It is about reclaiming your energy, protecting your well-being, and choosing freedom over dependence. It is a courageous act, a declaration that your peace, your growth, and your emotional health matter. Through the journey of detachment, you are not abandoning love or compassion. You are redefining how you love yourself and how you allow others to influence your inner world. The first rule, acknowledging your feelings without judgment, sets the foundation. Too often we suppress or dismiss our emotions, believing they are a sign of weakness. But emotions are messages, signals that something matters deeply, that our boundaries have been crossed, or that our hearts need care. By naming what we feel and sitting with it, we give ourselves the clarity to understand our needs. This honesty with ourselves is the first step toward freedom. Acceptance of what you cannot control follows naturally. We cannot change the choices, actions, or emotions of others. And clinging to the illusion of control only leads to frustration, resentment, and exhaustion. Emotional detachment begins when we release the need to manage someone else's reality and instead focus on our own responses. Acceptance is a radical act of courage. It allows us to reclaim the energy that was being wasted on things beyond our influence. Boundaries are the protective framework of detachment. They are not walls meant to isolate us, but guardrails that preserve our hearts. Setting boundaries requires clarity, honesty, and consistent enforcement. When we define what is acceptable and what is not, we signal to ourselves and to others that our emotional well-being is non-negotiable. Boundaries create a safe space in which we can heal, grow, and thrive without being diminished by harmful behaviors. Limiting exposure gradually is a practical application of these principles. Detachment is not abrupt or punitive. It is a careful, intentional process that allows our hearts to adjust by reducing contact, stepping back from triggers,